Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Gabby and welcome. If you've never been here before, I cover true crime cases. All of the cases that I cover, a little bit more on the vintage side. They're all basically 20 years or older, so if that's something you might be interested in, maybe go down below, click that subscribe button, and if you want to be notified every time that I upload, make sure to also click the bell notification and set it so that you get notified every time that I upload. I also have a desk now. I was scrolling on Amazon and I'm like, you know what, I need a desk. So I bought a desk. I finally feel like I know where to put my hands now, which is awesome because usually they're just like flailing everywhere and everyone's like, why are your hands everywhere? And I'm like, I'm Italian, I talk with my hands. I don't know, but I have a desk. I have a desk. Today's case, we have another vintage and vanished case. And if you don't know what that is, it is a series on my channel where I cover older cases of people who have mysteriously vanished. And this one I had never come across before, and it was sent in by a subscriber. So thank you, Amy, for sending in that request. In your email to me, you said that this case baffles you. And once I started looking into it, I have to agree. It's a weird one. I do have to say before I get into the video that there has been a lot of publicity around this case, especially in the UK, because there was a recent documentary, and I mean very recent documentary, released on ITV about this case because of the recent updates in the case. So when it came to the research for this video, I basically went through every single article I could find about the case. Each article had a little bit differing information. Some articles had more information than the next, and basically just went through all those articles, did my rough draft, and then I watched the ITV documentary, and any information that was in that documentary that wasn't in any of the articles that I came across, I put that information into this video. So this video is basically every bit of information that I could find online and watching the documentary about this case. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. This is the disappearance of Stephen Clark. Stephen Clark was born to parents Doris and Charles Clark in the year 1969 in Colchester, Essex. A year later, Stephen's younger sister, Victoria, was born. Then the next year after that, the family moved to beautiful Scotland. Stephen was 2 years old at this time. When Stephen was around this same age is when an event occurred that changed his life and his parents' lives. One day, his mother, Doris, started heading to go to a nearby shop. She was walking there and she didn't realize that her son had started following her. She saw a random lorry speed past her, which if you don't know what a lorry is, it's a truck used to transport cargo. So this lorry speeds past her and she looks behind her and she sees little Stephen, only a toddler at this point. He was hit by this lorry and was laying stiff on the ground. In this moment, she was obviously absolutely terrified that her son was dead. He wasn't though. He lived through the incident, but he was never the same again. He received proper care for his injuries, but nothing could fully fix his left arm and left leg. They were both left with severe damage, and he would walk with a limp for the rest of his life. His parents said that after his accident, Stephen just wasn't the same little boy anymore, but of course they understood why. Because of his disabilities, there were a lot of things he was not able to do growing up, but he was still overall a happy child with a good upbringing. From my research, Stephen and his family moved around quite a bit when he was growing up. He attended many different schools in many different areas. He received some of his education in Cambridgeshire, which is a county in the east of England. In the early 1980s, he then attended a school in South Africa when they moved there. They actually spent, I'm pretty sure, about a decade in South Africa, and then they moved back to the United Kingdom to Guildford, which is a town in southern England. In the summer of 1991, they moved to the village of Mask by the Sea, which is a coastal village in the Unitary Authority of Redcar and Cleveland, and the ceremonial county of North Yorkshire, England. This is where they would be living until Stephen's disappearance. As an adult, there was still a lot that Stephen could not physically do, but he tried his hardest and he really enjoyed his independence more than anything else. He had taken a couple of courses and actually received an Apprentice of the Year award, and he was so excited about this award. This was one of the happiest moments of his life. There were a lot of things that happened in Stephen's life that made him happy about himself, and where he had a bit of confidence and felt like, hey, you know, even though I have disabilities, I can do this. I can make something of myself. But the thing that really got to him most of all was jobs, because a lot of places, no matter how intelligent he was, no matter what he could bring to the job, they didn't want to hire him because of his disabilities. Fast forward a little bit, and now we are at the date of Monday, December 28th, 1992, only 3 days after Christmas, and Stephen is 23 years old at this time. I do have to mention that everything I'm going to tell you about the day of Stephen's disappearance is according to his parents. On this day, Stephen's father went to watch a Middlesbrough football match. If you're in the United States, we of course call football soccer. Stephen was originally supposed to go to this match with his father. He was all excited to go, and then his father said, well, you know, if you're gonna go to this match, you have to pay for your own ticket. And Stephen did not want to do that. And that was kind of a joke in his family, how much he did not like spending his own money. If you wanna go to the match, gotta pay for the ticket. And Stephen said, no, you know, I'll just stay home. You go to the match. I'm not gonna spend my own money. I'm gonna save my money. So that's exactly what he did. Doris said that she can't remember if her and Stephen left the house at the same exact time, or if he started making his way to the beach and then she hurried behind him to catch up. But they ended up walking along the beach together for some time. They started walking along the beach and made their way to Saltburn. So Stephen didn't end up going to this match with his father. He ended up going for a walk along the beach with his mother. They're in the area of Saltburn, about 45 minutes from Mask, and Stephen tells his mother that he really needs to use the restroom. So they decide to find the nearest public restroom. It's about 3 to 4 p.m. at this time. His mother was not entirely sure what time it was, but his mother Doris decided to wait outside for him while he used the restroom. Not much time passes. Stephen is in the men's room doing his own business, and his mother decides that, hey, she's just gonna go use the women's restroom as well. She comes out of the restroom not long after, expecting, of course, Stephen to be waiting for her. He isn't there though. She figures maybe he's taking a little longer than expected, so she just keeps waiting there and waiting and waiting, and people are going into the bathroom and coming out, and still just no sign of Stephen. While she is waiting for Stephen, she said that she saw 2 men with a little girl. This just stuck out to her. One of the men went into the men's restroom to use the restroom, while the other man and the little girl waited outside for him. When the first man came out of the restroom, he switched places with the man waiting with the girl, and the second man went in to use the restroom. When he came out, the 3 walked off. These were the 3 main individuals that, out of anyone there around the restrooms, that Doris remembers from that day. Doris didn't think to ask either of the men if they had seen her son when they went inside the restroom. At this point, according to her, she figured that Stephen had simply started walking back home without her before she came out of the restroom. So she starts making her way back home herself. I'm sure you all are thinking pretty much the same thing right now. One of the main questions in this case is, why didn't Doris just go into the men's restroom and check and see if Stephen was in there or where he was? Well, in her own words, she said he would have been horrified. You know, he was 23, not a child. That's what she said. According to Doris, in today's time, that is the main thing that haunts her most of all, why she just didn't go into the men's restroom herself and check and see if he was still in there or what had happened, what was going on. I mean, he had went into the men's restroom, she goes into the women's restroom, comes out, he doesn't come out, he's nowhere around, she doesn't know where he is. Why didn't she just walk in there herself? She says that overall is just basically the biggest regret she has in her life. This is something that leaves people with some questions and, of course, some suspicions, but according to Doris, she just really, above anything else, did not want to embarrass Stephen. I guess it was sort of one of those situations where she knew that the main thing that added embarrassment to Stephen's life for him was his disability, and she just kind of did everything she could to prevent him from feeling any more embarrassed in life, if that makes sense. Excuse me, I'm filming a video. So where is Stephen though? I mean, maybe Stephen just wanted to walk on his own back home. Maybe he was upset he didn't go to the game with his father. She figured maybe he just went off ahead of her. He was sometimes the type to do something like that. Maybe he just wanted to clear his head and just be by himself for a little bit of time. So Doris makes her way back to their home in Mask. She quickly realizes her son is nowhere to be found. He isn't at home. She gets a hold of her husband, who is watching the football game, and informs him she cannot find Stephen. She didn't see him on her walk home. He isn't at home. She doesn't know where he could be. His father, Charles, immediately goes home and phones authorities about Stephen's disappearance. The police, though, say they have to wait until Stephen is missing for at least 24 hours, which, of course, we know that is common in many cold cases. So for the next 24 hours, Stephen's family starts looking for him the best that they can on their own with no help from authorities. Of course, going back to the spot that he disappeared. They screamed his name, searched the restrooms, the surrounding areas, the beach. They heard no replies and could not locate him. After 24 hours was up, they phoned police, and police were out there within 10 minutes to help. Police combed through the area, not only unable to find the missing man, but any clues left behind. We've heard of cases like this so very often where it's genuinely like someone was just there 1 second and gone the next. Days passed, and while people were still looking for Stephen in the area, some interesting information came in, some supposed sightings of him. In total, through the years, there have been about 50 to 100 supposed sightings of Stephen. Here are a few of the main ones though. Another one we'll cover farther along in the video, but here are a few of the main ones originally in this case. The first sighting came from a woman who knew the family. I don't think she knew the family very well, but she was just kind of an acquaintance of the family. She stated that 2 days after Stephen vanished on December 30th, she saw him in Saltburn, not far from the area of the restrooms. She said she saw him with a balding man in his 50s to 60s. Stephen's parents were asked about this man that Stephen could have been seen with, and they said that they had no idea who Stephen could have been with that day. He didn't have any friends that were balding in their 50s or 60s. The second sighting was on January 14th of 1993 and was from a male friend of the family named Stan. Stan has since passed away, but his widow has spoken to people about this. The thing about Stan is that there's basically 3 stories with him, and while I was researching into this case and while I watched the documentary, it was very confusing to kind of get a direct story or direct supposed sighting when it came to Stan. The 3 versions of this supposed sighting are the one he originally went to police with, the one he changed his story to, and finally the one his widow has after he died. The first version, he claims that he saw Stephen walking and he was sure it was him. That was the one that he went to police with. He said that he saw Stephen out, was 1,000,000,000% sure it was Stephen. A few years later though, he changed his story and he went back to authorities and said that he saw a man that had a walk just like Stephen did, but he saw this man from behind, didn't see his face, and he wasn't 100% sure it was Stephen, but this man walked like Stephen and he thinks it was Stephen. Stan's widow though said that she remembers the day that Stan supposedly saw Stephen out. She said that she was waiting in the car for Stan, and Stan got in and asked if she saw who he was talking to, and he told her that he had been talking to Steven. She describes it as one of those incidents where, you know, you're like, hey, did you see who I was talking to? I was talking to Steven. Do you remember Steven? You remember Steven, right? Remember Steven? I was just talking to Steven, good old Steven. You remember Steven? Yep, I was just talking to Steven. At this time, she claimed, though, that they didn't know Steven was considered a missing person. They apparently discovered that news days later. Another supposed sighting was from someone who claimed that they saw Steven one night at a pub. Charles was notified of this immediately, and he quickly went down to the pub to see if Steven was there. When he got there, he didn't see Steven there. I mean, had Steven been at this pub? Was it just somebody who looked like Steven? This is something that Charles still wonders to this day. One might think that a pub would be a strange place for a missing person to go. Say if he was missing and nothing bad actually happened to him, why would he go to a pub, a place where so many people are at? I do have to mention that pubs were brought up another time in this case, and that is in reference to a girl who Steven had apparently been seeing before he went missing. According to reports, his parents knew of this girl. He had met her at the Rathbone Society. She even brought him home to meet her own parents. Basically, they were girlfriend and boyfriend, but I don't know if there was an official title on it at the point. But Steven and this girl mostly hung out at pubs. This is the main place that they would meet to hang out. Some thought maybe Steven was just laying low in the area and still frequenting places he used to go before he was known as a missing person. To many, though, this doesn't make much sense. Steven was well known in his area and the surrounding areas as well. He was a friendly guy who knew a lot of people. It would have been nearly impossible for him to be so well known and not draw attention to him when most everyone knew he was a classified missing person. This one sighting at a pub was the only supposed sighting of him at a pub, and the close female friend or girlfriend has been ruled out as having any involvement in his case. When it came to my researching of this case, this girl that Steven had apparently been seeing before he went missing, there's not much information about her online, and when it comes to the ITV little segment about this case, she, from my knowledge, I watched the whole thing, is not mentioned in the segment at all. But I guess that's because she was completely ruled out, but it is a little odd to people that one of the sightings was seeing Steven at a pub, and he would most often go to the pubs with this girl he had been seeing, but that's just something I had to add to this video. It's a little weird. Now, during 1993, which is the year after Steven went missing, Doris and Charles still continued the search for their son, spreading the word of his case in any way that they could. They even went on a television program in the attempt to bring more attention to the case, but no promising leads came in from that. Through the years, they have tried to keep his story alive and have also worked with the charity Missing People, which is a UK-based charity for missing individuals. They say that through the years, they have really tried their hardest to keep, above all, an open mind when it comes to Steven's case. As of right now, when I'm making this video, Steven has been missing for 28 years. You're probably wondering, okay, well, where's the case in today's time? Are there any new leads? Is it at a standstill? You know, what's going on? Well, actually, a lot has happened in this case, and most of it just recently. Just on April 22nd of this year, yep, not that long ago, just like 2 weeks ago, a new segment aired on ITV, and it was called Accused of Murdering Our Son, the Steven Clark Story. And by the title of that little documentary segment, you can probably guess where this is going. Through the years, Steven's case was reviewed by many senior police officers, and they all classified his case as a missing persons case. Well, in 2020, his case was reviewed by some new officers, and They classified his case as a murder case. And the first people that they looked at were his parents. On September 14th of the year 2020, Doris and Charles were both arrested on suspicions of murdering their son back in the year of 1992. According to Mirror, Doris was in her dressing gown when she answered the door to police officers, while Charles got out of the shower and admits he laughed, confessing he had a flippant attitude. Charles explains, "I said, go away and behave yourselves. I was very abrupt with them." They were both taken in for questioning, and Doris says the interviewing officer started querying her walk along the beach during the first interview. Doris explains, "At the end I said, I know my story and my story is true." And she said, "That's what it is. It's a story. They think I didn't do the walk." Stephen's mother says she was asked if her husband was dishonest and would keep things from her to protect her. She adds, "At the end of the interview, she told me I was violent, controlling, a murderer. Come on, Doris, tell us where Stephen's body is." And words to the effect of, "We'll put him to rest." Doris and Charles, since 1992, actually never moved from their home. They have been living in the same house all of these years, just in the hopes that Stephen would eventually come back. Police, for 5 days, searched Doris and Charles' home, and they searched everywhere. They searched in everything. They searched in the cabinets, all of the drawers, cupboards, everywhere in this house. And they even dug up their yard and they dug up their garden. Even, that's horrible, even digging up their dead cat in the yard. Authorities received a warrant to search the Clarks' home specifically for Stephen Clark's remains. That's what they were looking for. Authorities said that getting a search warrant is not easy and that they would not have even attempted to try to get one if they didn't think that there was a huge possibility that they would have stumbled across what they were looking for. So they looked all throughout the property and in the home looking for Stephen Clark's remains, but at the end of it all, they did not find his remains anywhere or no evidence to prove that his parents murdered him. After 74 days in February of just this year, Doris and Charles were released on bail after 2 full interviews, the entire search being done, and the case being fully reviewed by a cold case team. Doris and Charles were not charged in any way. After being released, they were sent a letter basically saying that they may have been cleared as of right now, but are still under investigation and could be interviewed again in the future. According to The Sun, Doris remains adamant that the police did not reveal a motive for the reasoning behind their suspicions of the couple, claiming, "I don't think they really said anything about a motive. There was nothing said like that." The documentary followed them for the entire 17 weeks that they were under serious suspicion for killing their son, and it was done by filmmaker and investigative journalist Mark Williams Thomas. Mark stated that at the beginning of making the film, he was very biased and viewed them as suspects because at the time, of course, they were. Then over that 17 weeks, to him, there was nothing of substance that pointed to them being responsible. That police had really nothing to go off of. That they came into the home of an elderly couple after nearly 3 decades and accused them of murdering their only son. Then at the end of it all, authorities were just basically like, you know, okay, looks like we made a mistake, like, it's cool, like, proceed. According to Daily Mail UK, following ITV's documentary, a Cleveland police spokesperson said the arrests were planned sensitively. A police station was opened specifically for the 2 people arrested and only them. They were not placed with anyone else in custody. Their time in police custody was not for the maximum, which would have been available to officers. Each stage was prepared to take into account their age and any other circumstances, including any vulnerabilities. Neither the identities nor the gender of the 2 people arrested was given to the media, and the couple identified themselves when approached by a journalist. Those arrested were also given the opportunity to have a legal representative present during the interview, which is under caution. The police did clear both of Stephen's parents as having any involvement in their son's murder, since the case is now considered a homicide case. With the release of this documentary, news outlets have been diving into the case, and even more information regarding it has come to surface, including more clues and supposed sightings of Stephen. One bit of new information to the public that has come forward has to do with a letter, and it is a letter that Stephen's parents knew very little about until recently. Even though it had to do with their son's case, they knew there was a letter, but they didn't really know anything else about it. In the year 1999, 7 years after Stephen vanished, authorities received a brown envelope with the words Stephen Clark Incident Room on it, strangely spelling Stephen's name incorrectly though, I might add. Police only recently released a photo of the envelope and part of the letter mostly blacked out to the public in the hopes of discovering who wrote it. All you can see of the letter is the words reference the disappearance of Stephen Clark. Could the police blank Stephen Clark? The entire rest of the letter is blacked out and it ends in, I hope this may be of assistance. What was exactly written in the letter has not been released to the public, but the person who wrote it basically said in the letter that they know that Stephen is dead and that they know who killed him. The person who wrote the letter claimed that Stephen had been killed by his parents. Only days after Stephen's parents were released on bail, the writer of the letter actually came forward to authorities. Not much information has been released to the public regarding this letter, but we do know that the writer of the letter was a female, come to find out. She didn't actually know the Clark family, and she claimed she only wrote the letter because she... Listen to this. She only wrote the letter because she had a feeling that Stephen was dead, and she had a feeling that his parents did it. Like, could you imagine being a lawyer and getting up during a trial and going in front of the jury and the judge and just being like, I have no evidence, but I have some feelings. I have some feelings about this case. Yes, I know I have no evidence to prove that that man over there is guilty, but hear me out. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that he is. Now here we are at the last bit of strange information I have to include in this video. I did mention earlier on in this video that I was going to talk about another supposed sighting of Stephen. The last supposed sighting is one from a woman who claimed she actually saw Stephen not long after he supposedly went missing. This woman did not go to police back then, but came forward recently. She stated that she saw Stephen near his home at around 3 to 4 p.m. on December 28th of 1992. This person claimed they saw him back around the area of his home within the hour that he supposedly went missing. Now, was this witness wrong about time? Did they make it up? Did Stephen possibly walk very fast back to the area of his home and then something happened to him before he got there? We do not know. This supposed sighting even had his own parents very confused. Someone has to be wrong about something. Somebody has to be wrong about the timing or has to be wrong about the sighting, because this woman is basically saying that she saw Stephen 45 minutes away from the area that he disappeared from around the same time that he disappeared from that area. This case had me all sorts of confused, but at the end of the day, people, including authorities, believe that someone hurt Stephen, that he is no longer alive, and someone did something to him. They do not believe that he committed suicide, and they do not believe he up and left his old life behind. There are no clues at all that point to him starting a new life. Money in his bank has never been touched. His belongings were left behind. They never tracked down anyone trying to use his name or create another ID card or get a passport under his identity. Nothing like that. As they say from all that, there are no signs of him being alive. They do believe that he is deceased, and they do believe that somebody is responsible, and they are hoping to find his remains eventually and hopefully solve this case in entirety. But from all of the interviews that I've seen with his parents, they think that there is a chance that Stephen may still be alive out there somewhere. There have been a large group of people that have looked at this case and thought, okay, well maybe he came out of the restroom, saw that his mother was not there, and started walking off trying to find her, or maybe he just decided to go near the shore, and near where they were, there's kind of some cliffs around there. I mean, not like super close by, but like there's some cliffs, and people thought, well, maybe he just started kind of like walking near the cliffs and maybe he fell off of the cliff. But authorities don't think that this was something that happened, because they said that, you know, within all this time, and of course the direct search afterwards, they would have found Stephen's remains. With every disappearance case that I've pretty much ever covered on my channel, no matter how odd they are, my brain will usually kind of lean towards one theory, you know, but with this one, I don't know what to think. This case would be completely different if he was younger than 23, like say, you know, a child, a teenager, you know, and they went their separate ways into the restrooms and then, you know, somebody abducted him. But this was a 23-year-old man. This case is just very odd, and I really hope that with this new documentary that was recently released, I will link it down below in the description of this video. I myself am in the United States, so I had to use a VPN to watch the segment, but if you are in the UK, you should be able to watch it just by creating an account. But if you don't have a VPN, you're not in the UK, I'm not sure how you're going to watch it. Maybe you can find a different link for it, but I will have the link down below that I used. I just hope that with this new documentary, more people can learn about this case. Maybe somebody else can come forward. Maybe they remember him and saw him. Maybe they saw something that day. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they know somebody who admitted to something. I just hope that, you know, any exposure at all is good for a case. But all in all, that is the disappearance of Stephen Clark. And if you have any theories, anything you're thinking about the case, any comments you want to add about this case, definitely leave those down below in the comments of this video. If you don't know this, I recently started a new series on my channel called Let's Gab, and it's where we sit and discuss a case. And I really only do it if a case video of mine gets very interesting comments or discussion-worthy comments, as I like to call them. And then I'll do a video, like a little second video, where I talk a little bit more about the case, and it's just very interactive with my subscribers, and I love doing it. So if you have anything to add to this case, if I get enough of those comments, might do a little Let's Gab video about this case. If you have any cases that you want me to discuss here on my channel, you can send those to gabulosiscaserequests@gmail.com. And with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing and safe day or night wherever you are, and I will see you guys in the next one.